The frog, see? What did you say before? Where's your Messiah now?
That's from Billy Crystal's play 700 Sundays with My Father.
Right.
And he
It was also E.G. Edward G. Robinson in the Ten Commandments.
well he said
The only thing that he was missing was a cigar.
but he said that he used to do he used to like to do imitations. And he said, like my Edward G. Robinson, yeah, where's your Messiah now?
No. The frog, see? Well, it's another night, Thursday night, the Joe and Joe weather show on, what is it now, day 25 of quarantine?
I don't even.
I've lost total track. Although I will tell you that I did go out. I had to go to, I had to make an emergency run, because I ran out of wine.
You ran out of what?
Wine!
Oh, okay.
Not wine as in wine. Okay, wine.
Yes, I know. I
I
know.
ran out of Merlot, and I'm looking on the shelf, and all I could find were Cabernet Sauvigons.
The only wine I ever really liked was Matus Rosé.
No,
Remember that?
I'm a Merlot guy. I like Merlot. I like my Merlot. I don't like white wine very much. I also cook with red wine, so we're all good. All right, so let's talk weather. We have we had a pretty wild day, although as per usual here on Central Long Island, the thunderstorms weakened as they got to me. But I did actually have some pretty heavy rain and some decent gusty winds. Although it's one of those things, Joe, where it's like how do you separate the wind you would have had anyway because of the southwest wind ahead of it, and whether from the wind that's being produced convectively, I couldn't tell the difference. But there was some hail reported in a few places in Jersey, and even I believe in parts of Queens and Brooklyn. And I don't know, how did it wind up your way?
Not much where I am here in Putnam Valley, although I did get a message from my daughter who's up in New Paltz in Ulster County, and she said very loud thunder and hail, pea-sized hail.
Yes,
So
that's what they said in some of the storms in Jersey was pea-sized hail.
yeah,
Was
so
it split pea?
I'm not
Yep.
sure.
Right. Yeah, split pea.
Or could have been sweet pea.
No. It was the split
We're
pea.
getting sweet peas,
Yes.
sweet peas.
Let's, by the way, let's extend happy Passover wishes to all of our Jewish friends and neighbors with this Holy Week, Passover, Easter Sunday, and so on, in a time when things are just kind of weird. Then the holidays themselves are kind
I
of
got
weird.
listen. I got very angry when I posted a lovely graphic yesterday. Said Happy
I
Passover,
saw it. It was fine. What was the problem?
right? Somebody made the comment. Why do you say? Because I accompanying the graphic, I said to all of my friends of the Jewish faith and all of my associates who are Jewish, Happy Passover. Somebody wrote in response to that, why are you saying for all of your friends of the Jewish faith? How come when you say Merry Christmas, you just say Merry Christmas and don't?
Oh, see, this is where, Joe, this is where people have gotten so ridiculously touchy. Okay, and it gets to a point. It's almost to a point where someone says everyone else is getting attention. So what can I do or say to get attention? I mean, seriously. Um,
That's
you
right. And
know,
the person who followed that stupid remark, the next person said, I forgot the person's name who posted that remark. Let's say it was John Smith. He said the next person who posted the remark said John Smith. Seriously? Question mark.
yeah.
And it's true.
Someone takes the time to give you to wish you. This is why I always had a problem with the whole concept of not, when I say Merry Christmas, unless if I do know if the person doesn't celebrate Christmas and celebrate something else, I extend a greeting to to specific to them. I take the time to try to find out, and get to know another person by in that approach. the a priest at my church once explained his view of the phrase "Merry Christmas," that it's a blessing. So you're actually extending you're extending a blessing to someone, even if they're not part of your faith. You're
Right.
extending a blessing. It is a kind gesture, a nice gesture, and a loving gesture. Yeah.
Right.
So I get, but this is how bad it's gotten. Okay. So yesterday, I don't know if you saw it, but I posted, and you know how I like to speak I do my third person thing, my royal we when I type in on Facebook, because I find I can be I'm by writing in character. Okay, I say things sometimes that I couldn't say, as a regular person. So
Right.
it's an easier way for me to write, and I find that I can be creative that way. So I wrote that, making my comment in general, and I don't want to get into, you and I have already talked about, all these conspiracy theories and all the rest of it, and how everybody on social media is now, they all got their degrees in the last 100 days in epidemiology and in medicine and everything else. So I just made a basic statement where I said, you know, for those of you who got your degree in epidemiology, and I have this funny, certified Facebook epidemiologist stamp, and it was all meant in sarcasm, and it was written in sarcasm, and I ended it by saying, instead of spending your time online being, pontificating about subject matters you're really not expert at, how about trying to clean your seldom cleaned bathroom? Now that was a metaphor to say you got to have something better else to do than to sit here and write all this stuff. Do you know that somebody wrote to me saying that I was spewing hate by criticizing people whose bathrooms weren't cleaned? And think about this, okay? And that there might be a perfectly good reason that a person's bathroom isn't clean.
Right.
So I responded, after just kind of like looking at this with my eyes, like, you got to be kidding me. I responded back very kindly, and I said, this is a metaphor, okay? The metaphor means that what I'm saying is you have to have better things to do than to get on Facebook and pretend, and you pretend to be an expert. But can you imagine and called me a bully, no less. Close that I was bullying people that have unclean bathrooms. And
Right.
the thing is, they weren't being funny; they were actually being serious. That's the thing. All
Right.
right. I've read it over and over, and this is where it's gotten. We always say, we have these conversations like this, Joe. We always say it's gotten at it. You think it can't degenerate anymore, and it gets worse and worse. It just continues to just sort of spiral down into the abyss.
It's amazing the world we live in, Joe.
It is. So you know what? People need, and I see. I won't apologize. I mean, I'm not going to. The way I approach this stuff now, and I have for a while. This is what I think. If you don't like it, too bad. You know, you go elsewhere. Just like that whole thing I put up with the pig. It said, take the third picture on your phone and,
Right.
and stick it up your, you know what? Because
Right.
you know what? Those posts are annoying. They really are. And they
Right.
got once one person does it, suddenly you get 100 of them, and it's like,
It's like
stop.
chain letter.
Yeah, cut
Yeah.
it out.
Yeah.
And then you're getting stuff on Messenger. I get these religious things and telling me to pass it on. I'm not doing that. Get out, go away. I don't even want to talk sometimes to the people who message me, let alone. Just kidding. Okay.
Amazing.
All right. So you know what? We're here to do weather. We had our rant for the day. Uh, Actually, let me just put this. I'm going to put this on the chat for those of you who are new to this channel, and of course, if you're still watching after what I just said. I just put up a link to Discord where the chat actually continues 24/7 on this link. You can join in. doesn't cost you anything. It's absolutely free. And if you like chatting with everybody that chats on the chat board, or you want to join the party, just follow that link to Discord, sign in, and you're all set to go. And by the way, you'll never miss a live stream that way because I always put the notification on Discord. So that you know the live stream is coming up. So special thanks to everybody that's on here. By the way, today it's I know this is a crazy week and people have with everything else that goes going on, holidays and so on. And I just hope that what we do at least distracts you away from uh, the day-to-day stuff that we've had to deal with. So right.
Which almost sounds like something that Red Skelly. If we have brought just 1 second of happiness into your life and have caused you to forget all the misery that has occurred
God.
in your life since the beginning of this week, then we have been successful in entertaining you. So until next week, I say good night, good health,
And
and
may
may
God bless.
good night.
And may God bless. Remember? All right, so we got a busy, what looks like is going to be a busy weekend, and start of next week because one storm goes, and now we talked last week about how the teleconnections were maybe pointing to around this coming weekend. It was a little off by a day or so, but nonetheless, there is going to be a major storm that's going to head up into the Great Lakes. And tonight, Joe, we've got winter storm warnings up in Maine and northern New Hampshire. Wait till you see the snowfall forecast map for up there. Wind advisories down into the mountains of northwestern Virginia and also across the lower lakes back into the middle and upper Mississippi Valley. Severe thunderstorm watches up in parts of Texas and Louisiana. Winter storm watches have now gone to winter storm warnings in a number of counties in Montana. And of course, the seeds are all being planted by what's left of a storm coming into the southwest. Still have some flash flood watches and winter storm warnings up. This is 5 days in a row now. Some of those mountains must have gotten clobbered with snowfall in Southern California. Winter storm warning still for some of the mountains north and west of north and east of Los Angeles and north and east of San Diego, Cucamonga.
I gotta tell you, Joe, I said to myself, while looking at the snow for northern New Hampshire and Maine
And
for
that map is up, by the way.
I mean, I said to myself, boy, this is great spring skiing conditions. And then I stopped and I said, yeah, if the slopes were open, or if the ski areas were open, or the resorts were open, this would be great. But nobody's skiing. This
No,
this is like crazy.
it is
It's gonna
crazy, and I
feel
mean we're talking about a foot to a foot and a half north and west of I-95 up in Maine,
right.
and south of there, even down to the coast. It looks like there might be a coating to a few inches, and you don't have to go that far inland to start picking up more than that. And in northern New Hampshire, also. Some of the mountains up there could get up to a couple of feet. We also have some lake effect that's going to be going on in New York State, in north central New York, and also southwestern New York on the order in general of a coating to a couple of inches, and extending down to parts of western Pennsylvania. Up in northeastern New York in the Adirondacks, there might be, especially as you go higher up, maybe some 4 to 8 inch snowfalls there. And I'm just going to widen this out so we could take a look. The other thing to look for, and it's not yet in the time frame, so we can't really show you, but I'm thinking this storm that's going to be coming out of the southern plains is going to probably produce some substantial snows for the western Great Lakes on Monday. Here's the map for when you look up in the northern Rockies. The northern half of the Rockies looks like a few inches in and around northern Colorado, in and around Denver. Denver getting a four print from the Weather Service, and you go up north and west through Wyoming and Montana, upwards to about a foot or so in the higher ups. But most places getting several to 6 inches out of this particular weather system. We've got wind for tonight and wind for tomorrow.
And we have a wind advisory posted for much of the area, and it extends until the late evening hours. And I'm wondering, Joe, I honestly believe that tomorrow there are going to be periods tomorrow and tomorrow evening where the winds are going to be as strong, if not stronger. I would have,
With
I would,
with the daytime heating,
yeah,
absolutely,
and
absolutely.
So I guess what they're going to do is they're going to issue a second wind advisory. I myself would have just had a wind advisory, although maybe they can't do that to cover it, through tonight and tomorrow, even though tonight the winds will not be at advisory criteria. But I think they're definitely going to need another wind advisory tomorrow.
I'm looking at the 7 o'clock observations. The brown area that you see, folks, those are the where the winds are, and the map is just updating now. There was a gust in Atlantic City to 49 miles an hour at 6 o'clock. They have the highest gust at the moment at 38. Everybody else is pretty much gusting between 20 and 35. So it looks like maybe the worst of the wind that we have this afternoon is over with. The numbers in red indicate the gusts. So even down in parts of Maryland and northwestern Virginia, I mean, there's some gusts into the low 30s, but the 40 mile an hour plus gusts aren't there. And I'm looking up into New England now and New York, just wait for the numbers to come back up. The winds have, they're gusting to 20 to 35 in some places. Again, nothing off the wall with regards to wind gusts.
And Tim Veldman just posted the Weather Service, and I'm assuming that he's referring to Albany, extended uh, his advisory or our advisory from 6 p.m. tomorrow until 6 p.m. tomorrow for an extra 18 hours over the original
Well,
issuance.
it makes sense. The
And,
gradient is so tight.
right.
You know, I guess the weather services, our local offices. Well, you saw last night, Joe. New York City put theirs up for that small area surrounding New York City and the surrounding counties. There weren't any preemptive wind advisories anywhere else. Then I woke up this morning and I looked at the map, and there's wind advisories up from Virginia all the way to New England. So,
Right.
you know, I sometimes wish they would just coordinate a little better. It just seems, I think it's confusing to people when they see something like last night where, somebody decides to go preemptive, which is fine, but maybe it'd be better if you kind of get more people on board with you in a situation where, this is not a severe thunderstorm warning where we're talking about one county or a handful of counties here. It was pretty obvious that they were going to probably put it up for a larger area. Anyway, that's their job. I'm not trying to, far be it from me to tell them their job.
Jeffrey Maris says that he saw, by the way, Fisher Island Airport. I didn't even know that Fisher Island had an airport. Uh,
I didn't
but
even,
they had a wind gust of 64 miles per hour when the line came through earlier this afternoon.
and the radar right now, all of that's long gone. But you can see all the precip that's developing in Maine. I haven't looked at the obs up there yet, but I gotta believe that the stuff that's away from the coast is mostly snow. I'm going to check that out specifically in a second. But there's a problem for tomorrow when you look at the radar back over the Great Lakes, Joe. There's a lot of shower activity moving southeast. I mean, this is all part of the upper trough swinging east. And I think tomorrow is going to be one of those days where, at least at the coast, you might wind up starting as with sunshine, and then all of a sudden it just kind of clouds up. All the Q starts to develop, and I'm thinking maybe I threw in the chance that there could be a passing rain shower tomorrow afternoon down near the coast, and of course the lake effect is going to be working overtime. Steve Lapointe, thanks for hitting super chat tonight. Ding dong, really appreciate it. He rang a bell. Thank you. A cigar for me and a cup of coffee for you.
Or
But
tea.
yeah, I'm thinking, tomorrow's going to be one of those days where, in the middle of winter, uh, you start to see all the Q form, and then in some places it goes completely overcast. Other times you'll see the sun try to break through, and we'll just have to wait for the upper. This whole thing has to clear out before we finally settle down with the winds on Saturday.
How about a flurry? A few wet snowflakes.
Well, not impossible, I guess, especially north and west. Yeah, not impossible.
And you know what else? The maps, the hand drawn snow probability
Hmm.
maps. It's not very often, and they have this for central and northern Maine. It's not very often that on the probability map for at least 12 inches of snow, you see in red, 70%,
Oh, let me.
and
You
they
know
have
what?
that for
I can bring it up. Let's see. Hang on. Let's bring it up for everybody to see. That's the rain
I mean,
map, folks. I'll get to that in a second.
normally
Um,
you'd see that for 4 inches or 8 inches of snow. It's not too often that you see them outline a 70% area in red for at least 12 inches of snow.
well,
That doesn't happen too.
I got the map up, and let's put the 12. Okay, hang on. I got to change the time frame so that it covers the whole period so we can see it. It's freshening up. Yep. Oh, come on. I did this again to me? What is this? Hang on. I changed that to 12. Yep, I see it. You can see it for yourself, folks. It's up there on the screen. And let me just make this a little brighter. Yeah, you've got that salmon-looking area. That's actually eight. Yeah, 70% is in the lightest blue, and 80% is in that salmon area of at least 12. Can we say 18?
I'll
Well,
say
there's one spot up, in northern Maine there, Joe. It's a 30% probability of at least 18.
yes. Sounds like the price is right, doesn't it? I'll go
Well,
18
well, without going over.
without going over. Yeah.
Always Price is Right rules. We're setting up, of course. By the way, just want to go back to the radar. We could see that the thunderstorms in southeast Texas. This is where they have the severe thunderstorm warning. I'm sorry, the severe thunderstorm watch. This is as of 7:23 Eastern time. So remember, if you're looking at this on a replay, check your local National Weather Service forecast office for the latest information, and you can do that by going to weather.gov. Meanwhile, out in the west, California has been getting, Southern California continues. You can see the upper low rotating around here counterclockwise. Large area of rain coming into Southern California and working its way inland. And this has been an ongoing issue there. But of course, now we're going to see this upper low, this very strong shortwave that's going to be kicked eastward, and that's going to trigger a major storm that's going to develop in the southern plains. Here's what it looks like on the satellite loop. You can see it on the lower left. The rotation still continues, but it is further inland. You've got some tropical moisture that's moved into Texas. And of course, you're seeing some of the thunderstorms that are blowing up this evening in southeast Texas. And then, of course, there's the storm system now in the northeast, moving into it's in southern Canada. Probably another center redeveloping now in the Gulf of Maine and moving right along. Robert Russo rings a bell for a cup of coffee and a cigar. Thank you so much, sir, for hitting a super chat tonight. Joe and I really appreciate it. So the rest of the east looks pretty clear, Joe. There's so the cloud. You see all the upper low and the upper trough are swinging around the Great Lakes and all the scattered shower activity that's there. That's going to be moving eastward.
It just boggles my mind that we had to go through the entire winter, and we finally now are out of winter and into spring, and we're not just a few days into spring. We're what astronomical spring. We're 20 days into astronomical spring,
Mm-hmm.
and that 40, I think 40 days into meteorological spring, and here we are with the finally in at least parts of the Northeast a real wintry setup that's taking place now and into tonight. But as you noted a few moments ago, Joe, major storm coming our way, moving into the Great Lakes for the weekend, actually for Sunday night into Monday. It's happy to say that, at least from this forecaster standpoint, the weekend will be unscathed, at least the daylight hours, in terms of any moisture, any precipitation. Both Saturday and Sunday look okay. A little brisk or breezy still on Saturday,
Right.
wind a bit milder on Sunday. I don't think it's going to start raining here until probably sometime after midnight Sunday night or early
I,
on.
I, I, I totally agree. Totally agree. The weekend is fine if you can put up with the gusty winds on Saturday and the chilly temperatures. Johnny Quest rings a bell on Super Chat. Thank you, sir, for doing that. Joe and I really appreciate it greatly. On the I brought up the upper air, and of course, Joe, this pattern for snow lovers really is, at the very least, it's about 2 to 3 weeks too late. It would have been a different story if we had this in February and in the first half of March, but you know what? That's what happens sometimes. And if you watch this loop, folks, you can see this deep trough that's dropping into the east tonight and for Friday. Very strong upper low that forms across upstate New York and over Maine. So no shocker here that northern New England is going to get the snow that it's going to get. But take a look at this. Is the upper low that we've been talking about here in the southwest. It's going to be moving eastward. So you got this mess here in the east that is going to pull out, but there's more energy upstream. It's not as if the trough's going to completely disappear, but you're going to see that lift out, and now here comes another upper low. You can pick it out right up here. This is northern energy coming down with a short wave, and then you've got this thing finally getting kicked eastward. In the meantime, of course, this is Saturday evening. We're in good shape here. We're dry. We have a bit of a weak ridge here in the eastern part of the United States, so that's going to keep things okay through the daytime on Easter Sunday. In fact, that ridge actually pops up a bit because why? There's your trough phasing out in the plains, and that is going to lift up toward the Great Lakes in negatively tilted fashion. Little lead shortwave that comes running out there. We're going to get juiced up with warm air here along the East Coast. How far north that warm air gets, I'm not sure. But I'm thinking, Joe, that we're going to have two areas of severe weather. Saturday, I think it's going to be in the Gulf states. And then on Sunday, whoops, that wasn't supposed to happen. Then on Sunday, I think we're going to see severe weather along the southeast coast of the U.S. while we start. I'm sorry. I got my days wrong. Let me do that again. So Saturday, back up. Saturday for the Gulf states. I'm sorry, Sunday for the Gulf states. Monday for the southeast coast. And this is a really deep trough that is forming in the central U.S. here. That's going to be impacting us.
And again, just thankful that we don't have to deal with any of this. It actually works out well for, um, and I was about to say for people who are traveling, but who's
Who's
traveling?
traveling?
Nobody is
It
traveling.
works out well for people who are staying home because it don't matter. And here's
Yeah,
why
but
I.
people are leaving on it. As one who has always had to pick up my mother and my sister in the Bronx, bring them up here for Easter, and then bring them back down to the Bronx late in the day on Easter Sunday or Sunday evening. And I just realized, I said, who's doing that? Nobody's doing that this Easter. Maybe next year, but not this year.
I know. It's there's a whole lot of time that's just the time is standing still, and when things slowly begin to normalize, we're going to realize that there's this sort of gap where not much happened in our lives other than the quarantine. A lot of stuff happened, and yet at the same time we're kind of in that limbo. All right, back to weather. We've got this is for the Great Lakes. Of course, with this trough where it is, I think it bodes well for snow lovers, say in Wisconsin and through much of the western Great Lakes. And we're going to take a look at that momentarily. Just going longer term next week, this is a fairly chilly flow, fairly chilly pattern through much of next week and into next weekend. And of course, we start to see the models struggling with short waves running around all over the place. So who knows how this all plays out at the end of the day.
Right, right. I just got an email from Larry Ullman, Department of Atmospheric Science, University of Wyoming. For those of you who like to look at the computer model, the tabular information for the MOS, you can wait. Nowadays, it's not. For example, if you want to see the GFS MOS data, you have to wait until 12:40 in the afternoon, Eastern Daylight Time, or 12:40 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. And on the Wyoming Weather Lab, you find out of the University of Wyoming. I always used to get that information like 30 or 40 minutes earlier than the NCEP site. Except for the last several days, it has been down. I've been trying to get it, and I keep seeing a comment, sorry, no data near the point selected. So I said, I got to write to somebody there and ask, and I did. And I just found out from Larry Ullman, Department of Atmospheric Science, University of Wyoming, who says that for some unknown reason, he wasn't getting the data for a couple of days. It looks like now we have returned with the 18Z cycle.
Oh, great.
So if you want to get your information a little earlier than the standard spots, standard locations, you can go on Wyoming Weather Lab and you can get it. Again, about a half hour before it comes out on the regular NCEP site.
All right, so before we move on with the surface map, Joe. Robert Brown says, could you share what kind of telescope you practice astronomy with?
I have my big telescope is a 10.1-inch Dobsonian reflecting telescope. The Dobsonians became very, very popular in astronomy about 20 some odd years ago, replacing the old-fashioned equatorial mounted scopes. More than that, actually. I'm dating myself. They started becoming popular like 40 years ago. I got this Dobsonian telescope in 1983. That's one telescope. I also have a telescope that was put together for me. He actually built this for me to view Halley's Comet by my friend, who was the best man at my wedding, Sam Storch, 3.1-inch refracting telescope, rich field as we call it, because it has a wide open view of the sky. I also have a giant, I do mean giant, pair of binoculars. Most of you carry, let's say, 7 by 35 or 7 by 50 binoculars, let's say to bird watch, or you take it to Yankee or City Field to watch a ball game. These binoculars are 25 by 100 binoculars. They're so big and so heavy that I need a special mount with a counterweight that's like 5 or 8 pounds to balance them in order uh, to mount these monsters and give me a good view of the sky. You can't handhold these binoculars. They're like 10 or 12 pounds. So between those three, that's my that's my list of instruments. Although I still have, going all the way back to when I was 16 years old, Joe, my 4.25-inch reflecting telescope, which I got from Edmund Scientific, and my son, I got for his 18th birthday an Astroscan telescope from Edmund Scientific. That's still up in his room. He doesn't live here anymore, but he still left it here, and so I have several different instruments I can lean on to look at the sky. And what else do I have to do at night these days? But take a
Take
telescope
the telescope out.
and
Now,
binoculars.
let's see if we can find some clear skies for you.
That would be
That'd be
nice.
nice.
That would be nice.
So here's your low tonight in the Gulf of Maine, intensifying fairly rapidly, getting down to a 969 low there. And snow, of course, overnight into tomorrow morning in Maine. You can see the lake effect that pops up. A lot of isobars on the map, tight gradient, 1022 high in Missouri, 980-ish low. Starts to fill a bit when it moves into New Brunswick. So the gradient's going to be tight, as we've been saying. The winds tomorrow could be every bit as strong as they were this afternoon, maybe even a little bit stronger. Saturday, high pressure finally builds in. The wind should start to ease during the afternoon. But watch that low. You can see the lower pressures in the western part of the U.S. You start to see a storm organizing in southern Colorado to the Oklahoma Panhandle. Sunday afternoon, we've got the beginnings of a deepening low in eastern Oklahoma, and here's where you're probably going to wind up seeing your risk of severe weather for Sunday, and this is this is going to be rather juicy. The low really strengthens as it heads up into eastern Michigan. Snow in Wisconsin, back over into northern Illinois, maybe to Milwaukee, possibly ending as snow in Chicago as the low really wraps up and heads up into eastern Lake Huron. The gradient here, Joe, is super tight. And it's going to get windy here Monday afternoon when this
Yes.
cold front finally passes.
You want to know how windy it's going to get? I took a look at the GFS X long range prog for LaGuardia Airport for next week, and on the wind velocity, they have a 30 for Monday. You don't
You
see
don't
that.
see that too often.
You don't see that on a long
Uh,
range on the
you would think
GFSX.
that that probably would mean at least gust of 50.
Yeah, that's going to be quite an afternoon, I think, on Monday.
All right. So after this storm goes by, we'll catch a bit of a break. And I'm always suspicious when you wind up seeing The weather models, as I mentioned earlier, you see a lot of short waves running around. So as you get into the long range, you're going to see a lot of what looks like a lot of confusion, weak weather systems moving along. I'm just going to be a little extra cautious here going into later next week and into next weekend. Right now, there's some hints of stuff going on, but it's hard to get specific at this point. I think it's just safe to say that the pattern is going to remain very active going forward. Whether it's just this one major storm that we're dealing with, or whether there might be another one down the road, remains to be seen. So we're back up full screen.
The Climate Prediction Center, by the way, just taking a look at it, has us in a 75% chance
I saw
of,
that.
of below normal temperatures for the next 6 to 10 days, and like 90% out near Chicago. So you talk about a cold air mass. This is a cold air mass. Amazing.
And a switch. What a switch from what we had, of course. Excuse me.
Excuse me?
I said, what a switch from what we had pattern wise.
Oh, it's crazy. I mean, remember we had like what, 80% probability of above normal temperatures in February at
Mm-hmm.
one point, and now we've just done the complete flip flop. And as I said all winter long, I said I have a feeling something stupid is going to happen when we get into when we cross over to April. Well, welcome to stupidity. it's it's
Yes.
stupid. It's stupid cold.
All right. I'm trying to load up a few things, and of course, they're not working for me right now. Uh, just everybody be patient. Nobody go away. We got still a few things to do. Um, what is this? Oh, you know what? Facebook, you're
What happened?
evil. No, I'm just trying to pull up. I'm trying to pull up some messages, and of course, while we're on the air, and something always happens to make it go wrong. Do we have any anything in store for the next few days in one's personal life other than
Nope.
staying
This is
home?
it's going to be basically the same story. We're hoping, for whatever reason, we last Saturday was such a lovely afternoon. So I had my son, my future daughter-in-law, my daughter. They came from wherever from their respective locales, and so we spent a couple hours outside in the nice sunshine at a safe social distancing, chatting and touching base with each other. Wanted to do that on Sunday. It seems now that their respective schedules again favor Saturday versus Sunday. So we may get together. We may have our little Easter gathering on Saturday as opposed to Sunday, but it'll be a little different than what we went through this week because as far as I'm concerned, each day is a Sunday now.
Javon Perry is on tonight and hit super chat. Thank you, Javon. Really appreciate it. Done with snow for your area. Any more thunderstorms in the long term? Well, look, let's see what happens Monday with this frontal, with the front when it swings around from that major storm. Who knows? It's been wanting to be convective, so we'll see what happens. I'm trying to pull up messages here, folks, to get to tonight's. Was Christina Pedia sent a message, a quiz question for you, Joe, as Scott Brewer, the chairman. He think he took the night off for Passover, um, and of course, this is what happens when I try to look. I forgot to preload the stuff, and of course, now when I need it to load up, I can only have so many windows open on my screen at the same time. And now I can't get the messages to come up. Go figure.
Wow, wow, wow.
By the way, we did confirm that Caribou minimum snow record is indeed 60. Was it 68 inches?
The Caribou record.
Yes. And
Right. And
Christina Pedia, if you're still on, you said where did you send me this message? Because I can't find it. I'm not finding it. Well, let's see if I can get with the ones that Scott sent me.
I'm looking here at the RPM, the 21Z run, and they actually have a pretty good swath of believe it or not, snow over northwestern New Jersey. Um, and that's at 5Z. That's midnight tonight. They actually think they might snow like that at
Where?
midnight.
Where? What are you looking at?
I'm looking at the 20. I'm looking at the 21Z RPM. I don't think you have access to that, do you?
No.
Oh, well, I do.
So, by the way, it was 68 inches occurred in the winter of 61, 62
Okay,
for caribou. Now,
right.
tonight's Briller Jeopardy question is the earliest that Central Park it hit 100 degrees.
Oh, the earliest. Hmm. It could be. Well, I was going to say May, but that seems
Well,
a little a tad
well,
too early.
that's my famous Tom Morgan story. It actually did hit 101 on that day in May, but it was he nearly broke the arm of the observer to force him to put down 99.
Ah,
Mark G, thank you for hitting super chat. A bottle of Merlot tonight. Everybody's being very generous tonight. Really appreciate it. Thank you very much. Joe and I appreciate it greatly. Thank you. Uh, so
yes, yeah.
so so 100 is
Well,
when is
June.
it the earliest?
I'll say June 3rd.
June 26th, 1952.
So you're telling me that it actually in the Tom Morgan story it actually got to 100 in the month of
It got
May,
101, and the reason
but
why.
it never we had to wait until like late June in order to get the first 100 on the books.
Right, uh, because of the fact that uh, the forecaster that day, his the forecast was for a high of 65 to 70, and he's and remember this was not a simple matter of just typing it into a computer and then hitting upload. This was you had to type it out and type it onto a teletype and then send it out on teletype machines to a whole bunch of different places. And he had to literally keep updating the forecast every hour. He kept raising it by 5 degrees until it got to 90. I think his last forecast that he put out around 1 or 1:30 in the afternoon was for highs in the 90s. So when it got to 101, he flipped out, just lost it. I went to the observer and said, if you put that, you're going to put 99 down because if you put down 101, I'm going to kill you. Okay.
And
Uh,
that's Central Park.
Here, Peter Bicker, and then we'll get to Christina Pedia's question. Do you think the winds will be stronger Monday afternoon after the cold front passes than what they were this afternoon? I think they will be
I think
for
they will be.
Monday.
I think they will be. Yeah, awfully windy all of a sudden, isn't it? We've got wind. I would
This is a March type storm.
I would categorize tomorrow as a windy day.
Hmm.
I would say just breezy on Saturday.
Right.
I'd say windy again on Monday and windy on Tuesday. I think we're going to have some strong winds on Tuesday as well of next week.
Uh, Agreed. Agreed. So here's Christina Pedia's question. It's a non-weather question, but we hit some did some civics the other day. So, which three presidents did not take a salary? Three presidents did not take a salary.
Three presidents did not take a salary.
Right.
Well, the only one I know is the one in office now who claims he was a very rich man to begin with. Um, was that one of the three?
Which one?
The one that's currently occupying the White House? Is that one of the three right now?
His
Or
name is.
do I have to put this in the form of a
Yes,
question?
Mr. Trump is not taking a salary. That is correct.
All right, but there are two others.
There were two others.
Hmm. Who would be that rich? Uh, well, how about George W. Bush?
Wrong.
Oh,
You must pay the penalty. Nope. The answer is JFK,
JFK. Okay.
who donated his salary also when he was a senator and a congressman. Um, And not that he believed in, he did not, and let's make it clear, he didn't believe in nepotism, nor did his brother Bobby, nor did his brother Teddy.
Teddy.
Okay.
I
Uh,
should have remembered. There was a story that was told by Larry King that a very good friend of the president, a personal friend, had approached him and needed some extra cash, extra money, and I believe the amount is a half a million. I'm not sure, but he said no, it couldn't have been a half a million. Well, maybe it was like $500,000. And Kennedy said to him, I'm going to be away for a few days. If you come here, come to the White House on Monday, and I'll write you a check." And he told him that on November 20th, 1963. That was before he
whoa.
left on his
Made a
ill-fated
trip.
trip to Texas. And supposedly this friend talked to Larry King on the phone, but he was so wrought with emotion that he couldn't even get the words out or whatever like that. He was like crying over the phone to Larry King. It's mentioned that story is mentioned in one of Larry King's innumerable books that Mr. King has written.
The other president, by the way, was Herbert Hoover,
Herbert Hoover.
who donated only part of his salary, the taxes.
You know, we make so much fun about Hoover and Hooverville. You know, he
Right.
was present during the Depression and everything else, and blamed him. For goodness sake, in the play Annie, they had a song that was rather derogatory toward Hoover. "We like to thank you, Herbert Hoover, for what you've done to us." But he really was a very, very good president. He did a lot of good things during his presidency. And the interesting thing about that, Joe, is that Hoover died a natural death like 6 months after the assassination of Kennedy. He was still alive
Still
after,
alive.
and the fact is that the reason why the color guard and the armed services was so like that for the Kennedy funeral was that they were practicing in their spare time for when
Hoover, yeah,
Hoover was going to die.
which is what they do,
It's
actually. And then what people also don't realize is that Hoover was president when the stock market crashed in 1929. The stock market crash in 1929 didn't really cause the depression. What happened was the stock market actually, if you go and look at a chart of the Dow Industrials at the time. And for Three Stooges fans, by the way, you can always they always make jokes because there was a company called Anaconda that was a Dow Jones Industrial stock, and there's a whole Three Stooges bit where they're asking for they're pretending to be surgeons and they're calling for instruments, and Mo says Anaconda, but that was a reference to a big company at the time. But the stock market actually rallied back almost to the high that it made prior to its crash. It was the Federal Reserve that tightened credit in 1931 and raised interest rates that really that plus the Smoot-Hawley tariffs and a bunch of other things that were going on internationally that actually caused the worldwide depression. So the crash probably spelled it out that something was wrong, but the crash in and of itself didn't really. It wasn't like the stock market crashed and the next day there was suddenly there was a depression. It took several years and other big money policy mistakes that created the depression. So it's just very interesting. We talk about a lot of very interesting things here.
right.
Meanwhile, Reaver 501 says his cousin in Sydney, Maine, says that I-95 is snow covered, trees are coming down, branches cracking and breaking. Not a shocker, because with
Yeah,
that low deepening like that, they're getting clobbered up there.
yeah. That's going to
Uh,
be a major. That's going to be a major. Normally, under normal circumstances, that would have been tomorrow one of the big news stories, the big snowstorm that hit Maine and northern New Hampshire, or whatever.
oh
And
yeah,
I'm wondering if it's even going to be mentioned in the midst of all of what's happening here.
yeah, probably not. It's it's all coronavirus all the time. The stock market's closed tomorrow. I usually watch CNBC because I think CNBC is its coverage is it's financial related, but It's very fair. They have a lot of interesting people that are on. It's not the same, um, it's not like the other news channels. They've got Dr. Scott Gottlieb, the former head of the
Who, who's
FDA.
who's the bald-headed guy that's on like at the opening bell
Oh,
on?
that's Jim Cramer.
Okay, I've suddenly become I've ever since this whole thing started, and I've watched my 401k become a 301k,
Hmm.
and now a 201k supposedly. Although we have had a series of rallies, but ever since then, I've been flicking on at the opening bell to CNBC and watching him, and Jim Cramer now has
Yeah.
become like a part of my family in the morning.
I just find, you know what, the coverage there is at least devoid of all the political noise that you find if you're watching any of the other news channels who are, whether it's Fox or MSNBC, um, or uh, CNN. The endless, just the endless screaming. That's to me, that's what it is. It's just this sort of endless agenda driven, whichever side of the equation you're on. This is one of those things where you say you're not prejudiced, you hate everybody equally. That's kind of how I feel about with regards to television news, and particularly the news networks. It's just it's to me it's all noise, and I can't be bothered with it. So that's why I just kind of watch CNBC. I figure if something's going to happen that's important in the real world, that really matters, they're going to mention it somewhere along the way, and then I can decide whether I want to go elsewhere or not.
And I also like CNBC because they sometimes will show Shark Tank at night and Deal or No Deal.
Yeah, Shark Tank at night. I will tell you this, and I'm going to pay because I've been watching. I honestly believe if you can get up early enough, and you might have to watch it a few times. Their morning 3 hour show from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. Squawk Box with Becky Quick, Joe Kernan, and oh my God, Ross Sorkin, not Alan Ross Sorkin. I can't believe I've just like gone blank. If you're watching, I'm sorry. I am a big fan of yours. You're a great interviewer, and you ask Andrew Ross Sorkin. Um, anyway, I think that's the best show around as far as sort of weaving financial information. Uh, I think Becky Quick is probably the one of the best anchors on television, far and away. It's so she's so prepared. You have to do all these interviews with all these different people on all these different subject matter in regards to finance, and she's you could tell she's so incredibly prepared for every one of these interviews. And I'm amazed sometimes at the how the depth of her questions are just always on point and terrific. And I really like Joe Kernan. He's very good. And Andrew Ross Sorkin also very good. I think he writes sometimes. He's got pieces that he writes for the New York Times.
So
So
tomorrow, since the stock market is closed tomorrow,
closed.
is it going to be a regular TV day for them, or are they just going to shift to a Saturday Sunday schedule? Do you think?
I'm guessing it's Saturday. Probably they'll have fill-in programming. Shark Tank during the day, and all the others. They've got those real estate shows that they run too.
Right.
But I've been a big CNBC fan for years, so maybe you could say I'm a little bit biased, but you know. And by the way, Bill Griffith, who used to be an anchor there, he and I, occasionally will converse on Facebook. So that's I find to be very cool,
Yeah.
because that goes back for quite a few years, and worked with Ted David in News 12, and
Right.
he was an anchor there for many years. And every once in a while, I do talk to him from time to time. He took me out to CNBC once when we were going to a WCBS radio luncheon that they have once a month,
Right.
and I got to see the studio, so that was really cool. Being the fan that I am. So anyway, if it means anything, I think you guys do a great job. If you happen to be watching this, it's just see us TV people even get gushy about other TV people.
All right. So you are going to alert now everybody about our.
Okay, so yeah, so here's what we're going to do, folks. Tomorrow is Good Friday, so we're going to be we're going to take off. Um, the just to give us a break. It's a quiet day, and some folks like to take the day to just kind of reflect. And well, anyway, that's what we're doing. Here's what we'll do. Saturday, we're going to play it by ear on Saturday as far as doing something. If it looks like the situation for Sunday night and Monday is going to be super busy and super serious, maybe we'll pop on and do something during the middle of the day. Sunday is Easter Sunday, so are we good with the regular time at 11 o'clock? Are you good with that Sunday?
You know, I've been attending local astronomy club meetings, and one of them is scheduled for Sunday, and I said it's Easter Sunday, my
Okay.
Easter Sunday, and the response back was, well, under normal circumstances we would agree with you, but what are we doing on Easter Sunday aside from maybe watching a virtual mass on television? What else do we have to do for the rest of the day? Families are certainly not going to be convening in a big group.
Joe, you there?
Are
There
you
you go.
there?
Yeah, no, you're there. Yeah, I took an internet hit in the middle of that. Sorry about that, folks. Uh, People are starting to jump online, I guess. I'm sorry, you were saying about Easter Sunday. So,
I said, it doesn't matter to me. I mean, we're not doing very much. It's not going to be much different here than it was on Palm Sunday. So if it's okay with you and if it's okay with everybody else, we can do it at 11 o'clock on Sunday.
all right. So you know what? We'll go with 11 o'clock. If it winds up that there's a problem on either end, maybe we could switch it to Sunday evening, if we have to. But for now, we are gonna do a Sunday show at 11 o'clock a.m. Eastern time. Okay, so
Yes.
everybody, uh, have a have go. Tim, did you put up a question? Because I see where you say on here, please read, and then you said I thought it was weather related in caps, but I can't seem to find your if there's a question there. You are saying it's 40 degrees and snowing where you are. You're up in you're up close to you're in on the Canadian side, right? You're in New Brunswick, am I if I remember correctly? But he's got snow there, so uh, he's part of that Maine group that gets snow until I don't know early May sometime.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, all right, so that sounds good for Sunday. So we'll leave it at that. All right, folks, have a good one. Thanks for being here. Please continue to do all that social distancing stuff that you're supposed to do. I went out with my mask today, by the way. I just so you know, I have my mask, and I did go out. Like I said, I had to do a wine run because I ran out of Merlot.
Yes.
And yes, Ruthless Goat, snow in Colorado on Sunday. Absolutely, but showed it up on the maps earlier with that next storm system that's coming out of the southern plains.
I'm
And
king of a white Easter.
yes,
Yeah,
you are.
you figure that when Easter comes this late in the season, and this is now I would consider to be a late Easter, it can come as late as the 25th of April, and that won't happen until 2037, Joe. So you and I will be here to talk about that.
Right.
But you figure it comes this late, we don't have to worry about snow or that kind of stuff. Wrong.
As far as I'm concerned, I really wish it were. To me, especially here, I am not going to enjoy the next couple of days because I do not like to walk in a screaming wind and temperatures that are going to be, barely back to 50. Uh, so I really don't like this. In January, February, and into the first part of March, it's all fine and dandy. We start to get to this point where the average temperature is above 60 every day. That's kind of where I want it to be. All right.
Exactly.
I want it to be up there at 60 or better. I'll take 50s as long as there's no wind, because then, the sun makes it feel a whole lot warmer than it actually is.
I think you're
But
gonna have a chill factor in the mid and low 40s tomorrow, Mr.
yeah,
Cioffi.
no, I'm not doing it. That means I'm gonna have to just, vegetate all day. And I did make baked rigatoni today, though.
Oh,
I did because I had leftover.
do you know my wife? My wife, who's just outside, believe it or not, my wife is making masks right now.
Oh, very
In her
good.
sewing room, and she's making masks. And the other night, I told her we were sitting. It was like 11 o'clock at night. I think we were watching the news, and I turned to her and I said, "You know what I have a craving for right now? A yodel.
Oh my.
Remember
I
those?
remember yodels.
Right?"
Never liked them.
She surprised me yesterday. She made a king size yodel.
Oh
Right
my
after
God. The woman is
we finished the
amazing.
show, right after we finished the show last night, I walked upstairs and she said, "I didn't expect you to be here so soon." And she had made the chocolate and the white, cream or whatever, and rolled it up into a. It was a king size yodel,
For those of you who didn't grow up in the Northeast,
complete with the
yodels look
chocolate.
like giant chocolate hot dogs.
Yeah, complete with the giant, complete with the chocolate.
Cream in the middle.
No, no, it was white cream in the middle, and it was coated in chocolate, and it was still, but the chocolate was still kind of soft or whatever. I said, how can you make this like nice and stiff the way the yodel?
Oh, jeez.
You know, and and she said, "Do you like this?" And I said, "There's only one thing missing." I said, "The silver and blue wrapping that each yodel came in."
Well, at least you know that the one that your wife made was actually made with genuine chocolate and real cream, unlike the yodels that you would buy
Right.
that had plaster of Paris in them and God knows what else.
Well, this shows you the kind of woman I'm married to, where I just make a slight suggestion, and I thought, maybe she might have gone out and gotten a
Look, you
box
should worship the ground she walks on because she fixes
a
snow
king
blowers.
king size
Okay, she
yodel.
fixes appliances. This is not, this is unusual. Okay, you have a gem. You
I gotta
should
I gotta post a picture of this giant yodel. And I asked, I said, "Are you gonna make your traditional bunny cake?" She makes a bunny cake each year for Easter.
mhm,
Well, the bunny cake is good when you have like 10 or 12 people over the house or whatever. It's only gonna be two of us. I said, "You still gonna make the bunny cake?"
come back. Okay, we're back. We're taking internet
Yes, we're
hits
back.
here. So look, good night,
All right.
everybody. Have a great rest of your night. Have a good Friday. No pun intended. Okay, and we'll see you maybe, possibly on Saturday, and for now, Sunday at 11 o'clock Eastern time. Take it easy.